everybody, this is Bree from Young, Saved, and Free, and I am back with this week's devotional. For everybody that's new to my channel, welcome. My name is Brianna. I am the founder and creator of Young, Saved, and Free. Also, if you've been around for a while, welcome back. I hope you all are here to stay. I love you guys so much for supporting. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and that you hit the notification bell so you never miss another video from me. The buttons are down below, so go ahead and do that. And I guess we'll go ahead and get started on the devotional. It is entitled, Lord, Prepare Me. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was literally running around my house yesterday during Bible study because I actually wrote this devotional out Tuesday. Yesterday during Bible study, it was my home church. My pastor kind of touched on it for some reason, and it was the oddest thing. That's why I was like, God, I know this is you for real, because this had nothing to do with what he was talking about. But he got stuck there for a moment, and then it was like, okay. It was odd. Like, it was just so weird. But then when he gave it to me to write last week, I realized I didn't post It's the Grace for Me devotional that went up last week. I hadn't finished that one yet. So he literally woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I had me saying, Lord, prepare me, Lord, prepare me. He gave me everything that I was supposed to say. And I typed it out on my phone and I went back to sleep. Like, I had no idea that this is what it was coming to. Like, and I'm so excited. But, and of course, I will be linking all the verses down below in the description box. And of course, when I'm looking at my phone, it is, just to reference the devotion because it is on my phone. And it's also available on ysflife.blogspot.com. So it'll always be up at 10:45 on Thursday mornings. So you can always catch it there no matter what time this video goes up, right? So our opening verse will be Matthew 24:44, and it reads in the New Living Translation, "You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected." So, a lot of times when people reference this verse, is as far as like get your house in order, and because you don't know when God is coming, and be prepared to die. I don't know what that word that just came out was, but be prepared to die and all that. But that's not what I was when I read the verse in the context that I'm speaking now. That's not what I got from it. And this is why I don't highlight anything in my Bible, by the way, because every time I read a scripture, no matter how many times I've read it, I get a new revelation every single time. And this is one of them. So when I read this verse, it was like, you have to be ready all the time, because you don't know when God's going to show up. You've been praying and asking God for all this stuff. You don't know when He's going to show up. You have no idea. And I think right now, for me, during the pandemic, we've been in this for almost 6 months now, and that's crazy. Like, that's absolutely crazy to me. But there's been so many people starting prayer meetings, virtual prayer groups, and no offense to Latrice Ryan, because I love Latrice Ryan, but once she started doing Kingdom Sniper, it was some other people that was like, oh, I can do a prayer call, I can do this, and I can do that, and then she can do it, and I can do it too. I mean, yeah, that's true, but then it's like, where does your hope lie, right? So like, we're in this pandemic pretty deep. And the hope, where is your hope? And the scripture says hope is the anchor for the soul. So, I don't know if y'all know anything about boats, but in order for there to be a need for an anchor, it has to be submerged in water, which means the water's got to be pretty doggone deep for the anchor to really hold on and stay true to what it was purposed to do. It anchors from deeper waters, and even in troubled waters, God is with you. But if your hope is not anchored in Him, if your hope is not there with Him, then where are your prayers going? Because really, a lot of people are praying, but they're not believing. They don't have hope in what they're praying for. And so really, it's like, what are you praying for? Why? For what? What are you doing that for? Because you just saying something that's going up in the air and coming back down. It's not going nowhere. But when your hope is in God, you have confidence that He'll do it. You have confidence that he'll come through, and it builds your confidence in him. And without faith, it's impossible to please him. Without faith, what's really happening here? So we got, a lot of people got so complacent and so, what's the word, comfortable in being able to complain about we can't go nowhere and this ain't never gonna change and this that, and you're just complaining about the circumstances, and then it's like, okay, that is what it is right now, but you don't know when God gonna show up and just turn this whole thing around. What was it? Romans 8:18 says, "Yet what we suffer is not. Yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory to the day will reveal to us later." And that's just, we don't know when it's going to be revealed, but when it shows up, none of this stuff matters, right? None of it matters. And the crazy thing is, ever since it started, it's like I literally, when I tell y'all, there's been so many people doing prayers, like, and it frustrates me. It frustrates me a lot. Like, it really, really frustrates. Everybody got a prayer line. Everybody got, prayer meetings. Everybody got virtual prayer calls. Everybody got all this. And it was to the point that I stopped doing power prayer on Mondays because I was like, you know what? I need to back up because I don't want to get lost in that. See, like, there's literally only 2 prayers that I listen to during the week. I listen to Tiffany Wilson now, and Latrice Ryan. That's it. I don't do, 3 Young Leaders Conference. By the way, if you have not subscribed to YLC TV, go ahead and do that because they have awesome, amazing content, and I'm sure he'll never see this video, so it's okay. You don't have to see it. But the content is there. And today is Thursday, so Truth on a Thursday should be coming on in a couple hours from now when I'm recording it, so it should be up by the time that you see this video. But we have to have that hope in God that is so essential and fundamental right now. Isaiah 40:28-30 says, 28-31 says, have you never heard, have you never understood? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of all the earth. He never grows weak or weary. No one can measure the depths of his understanding. He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even youths will become weak and tired, and young men will fall in exhaustion. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And 1 John 5:14-15 says, and we are confident that he hears us whenever we ask for anything that pleases him. And since we know he hears us when we make our request, we also know that he will give us what we ask for. So we have to know who we're hoping in, what we're hoping for, and understand that he hears you. He hears you. Yesterday during the midweek push, I did talk about prayer a little bit, actually a lot. And I just don't understand. When I tell you I don't understand why people are so distraught. They're doing all this praying, but they're still distraught. Like, the Bible says, cast all your cares on him. All of them, not just the hard ones, all of them. Every single last one of them. Cast them on him. Like, and God, yesterday, God gave me this. He said, in Christ, you find out who Christ is. And I was just like, you know what? That's good, because you really you find out who Christ is for yourself. You can't just hold on to the testimonies of your grandmama, your great grandmama, your mama. You find out for yourself who Christ is, right? And keep that in mind, because it's going to come up later on in the devotional. And so when I started thinking about all the things that I prayed for and everything that was coming up right now, like I told y'all, as y'all know, I just moved, and I found all of these journals that I wrote in, and it's crazy because I talked about this on the Thankful Thursday. I couldn't think of what it was called. On the Thankful Thursday, I did talk about this, but I found all of these journals. I literally have journals, so many journals that fills up a 5-shelf bookcase. And I was like, I went back and looked at some of them. I looked at the ones where I was going through PCOS. I looked at the ones, I found the one where God told me I had to move back here. And I still had the sticky note where I wrote it. I had the date, the time, all of that. Everything he was saying to me, everything he said to me, like when he would talk to me, I would just write and write and write and write. And I kind of forgot about it. And I was, my hope for what was to happen kind of diminished a little bit. Because it did get a little hard for me when it was time for me to move, like in that transition from moving out of my place to moving back with my parents. That was a very hard time for me. And even when things were not going the way that I was hoping they would, God still showed up. But I didn't know that he was going to show up at the time that he did. I literally, the Friday before I moved, I did not have a job. Somebody called me for an interview and said, can you be here Monday morning? I said, yes. I started working that Wednesday. I didn't know that God was going to show up that quick because I knew it was going to take a few weeks, for me to even get a job. And he showed up that quick. Hush, Dexter. Yeah, I have my cousin's dog, so if you hear him start barking or something, please forgive me. Please, please, please forgive me. But, you have to start preparing yourself. What do people who are in your who are in the in the place where you're hoping for do? What do they do? The Bible says study that to show thyself approved. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to studying is preparation for what's to come, right? So you're preparing yourself for what is about to happen, what's about to take place. For example, I've been praying and praying and praying that God will that God would help me as far as getting a new car. I need a new car. That's just my prayer for a new car, right? And so I kind of started looking at cars. Hush, Dexter. I kind of started looking at cars. I was like, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. But then it was yesterday during the Bible study, it was already confirmed. I heard God last week when he told me to go test drive something. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't because they're going to run my credit. And my credit's not the best. And that's like literally the money that I needed to get my credit situation showed up Monday night after I got off work. And I was just like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you for real. I'm going to go test drive on Saturday. Like I have like 6 different cars I want to test drive, right? And I'm going to go do it on Saturday because I'm preparing. I have to see it before I see it. And it's like, if I don't do that, then I'm not preparing myself. I'm not doing my who goals, as Elder Mark said last week on Truth on a Thursday. My who goals. What do people who are in the position that I want to be in do? What are they doing? For example, entrepreneurs, they read a lot. They read like crazy. They're always studying. I just got up this morning and started reading. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop because I set my alarm for like 45 minutes before I actually need to get up and get ready for work. And I get up and I start reading every morning. When I tell you, I just read and I'm like, okay. And my mind starts going very early in the morning. And then it's like, okay. And I have to put it into practice. It takes 21 days to form a habit. So I'm going to keep doing this until this becomes habit. I'm going to keep preparing myself for what's to come. A lot of times people be praying for stuff and ain't ready for it. So that's why God had me say, Lord, prepare me. Because a lot of people that ask, God, I need some money. God, I want a business. God, I need this. God, I need that. But you're not in a position where you're ready to receive it. Where you're not, I don't mean just mentally receive it, but like to be in a position where you can actually handle the blessing that you're asking for. People are like, God, please bless me with $1 million. If you had that much money, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You wouldn't know where to place it. You wouldn't even know what kind of bank account you needed. You wouldn't even know how to make it make money on its own. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not in a position where you're able to do that, where you're ready to receive that. So he really had me saying, Lord, prepare me. Lord, prepare me. And so, for example, Matthew 24 verses 45 through 51 says, a faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant is evil and thinks, my master won't be back for a while, and he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk. The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant to pieces, and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So you start preparing, right? You don't know when he's going to show up. I don't know when the money is going to show up for me to really be able to do everything that I want to do. But up until that point comes, I'm going to be preparing myself. I'm going, like, if people are trying to save money, they say, you know what, God, I want to save money, right? And it's not that I just want to do something, but what do people who are saving money do? They're not going out shopping every day. They're not eating out all the time. They're not doing a lot of different things. They're very, very, very not stagnant. They are very choosy, as far as, well, that's not the word I was looking for either. Conscious of what they're doing with their money. So I'm not checking on what I'm doing with my money. It'll all go away. But I have to be very smart in my decisions when it comes to money. You understand? So it's, it's, you have to prepare for those things. You have to. Come here, David. So David, for example, David, before he was King David of the Bible, before he was David of David and Goliath, he was just a shepherd boy, right? And so we have to, nobody knew that this was what being a shepherd boy was preparing him. Because the thing about preparation is it doesn't always feel good. More than likely, it's not going to feel good. There's some things that you've been through your entire life that have been preparing you for the moment that's just around the corner. And you don't even know it's around the corner, right? You have no idea what's about to happen. You have no idea what's about to take place, but you just keep going through it. You keep getting through it and passing every test, not knowing that your elevation, that your next level, that everything that you've been praying for is right there. David had no idea. He had no idea that he was going to be king. He had no idea at all. God had put him in a position where he was overlooked, where he was ignored, where he was belittled, where he was forgot about, where he wasn't acknowledged. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went through all those, and I'm sure, I am positive that he did not feel good all the time. And then for me personally, if somebody does not acknowledge that I am there, or does not, if I speak to them and they don't speak back, it bothers me. And I know for David being the youngest, he is number 8. I'm sure there was plenty of times he got ignored, okay? So, and I'm sure he took it personally sometimes. I'm pretty sure he did. But he had to be in a position where he had to fight bears. He had to fight lions to protect his sheep. God says if you are master over a few things, I'll make you ruler over many. So if I can trust you to take care of these sheep like this, I know that I can trust you to do other things. I can give you more responsibility because you did right by me the first time. I didn't have to keep asking you to do right by me. I didn't have to keep reminding you, I need you to do this. Will you go after the one? Will you leave the 99 and go after the one? Will you, can I trust you to do that? But a lot of people, they're not ready to be in that. A lot of people just want the title, and they don't respect the title because they didn't have to go through that process. And I'm not going to call no names here, but that is very true. A lot of people, they just want to be able to say, I have this position. They ain't willing to scrub toilets. They ain't willing to take out the trash. They ain't willing to be up all night. They ain't willing to go through the process, but they want to say, I'm this. But you know what? The thing about going through the stuff before you get the title is it keeps you humble. It reminds you of where you come from once you get that title. Because I'm pretty sure, and that's coming from a psychological point, David, a lot of times when he did some of the things that he did, it was a psychological thing. It was I'm still a little shepherd boy that nobody wants to speak to, that everybody's ignoring. Even though he's this great king, mentally, he had to go back there. And that's just something that like I told y'all before, I have a bachelor's in psychology. I went to school for social work after that, with plans to possibly go back for community psychology. Right now I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. But to think about all the things that I do that takes me back to a place where, this is what it is. And a lot of times, people, when they don't have that experience, they're not able to do the job the best that they can. And I try not to be political on this channel, but for some of the less melanated people, the reason why some of our less melanated people are not able, and politicians are not able to really impact the community as they aim to do, is because they don't understand it. So especially in this racial injustice with the police, they don't understand that because they don't know what it is to walk outside your door and not know if you'll make it home that day. They don't know what it is to be afraid for your life when the police drive by, because you don't know what they're going to start doing. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? I could be walking, but just because I'm a black girl, especially a dark-skinned black girl in South Georgia, in the South, period, you just don't know what these people going to do. You have no idea. Like, you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what it's like to be a parent and send your child off to school and not know if they're coming home. To not know that there's potentially something that could happen to them that day. They don't know what that's like, so they can, because they don't have that experience, they don't care. They have no idea. They don't know how scary that is to go through that day after day after day. But it's been preparing everybody else. That's why I vote for the people that I vote for when it comes to public office. Because if I know that you know what it's like to be like that, then I trust your judgment. I trust that you understand that something needs to be done to prevent this from happening, right? So you have that preparation, that study to show thyself approved, because you've been studying for it your whole life. Your whole life. Your entire life. You've seen it over and over and over. That was preparing you for what you're going to be in now. Maybe if we did this would not happen, right? That's what life teaches you. It teaches you every single time. And so what I've also noticed is that people have not mastered mindset. Now, anybody that teaches any kind of entrepreneurial course, like Miss Crystal, the first thing she talks about is mindset. Mindset, mindset, and mindset. We talk about it over and over. Like, if you've ever taken a class with Crystal Perkins, it is going to come up at some point in time. And a lot of times, our minds just are not ready to handle what's happening to us. Like, it's not in a place to where you can just accept it mentally. And like I said before, with David mentally, he was still the shepherd boy. When it came down to what happened with, what is that man's name? His wife had to Abigail had to step in to stop him from killing her husband. I can't remember what her husband's name was. When it came to that situation with Abigail, and when it came to Bathsheba, when it came to a lot of the things that David did, is because mentally he was still the shepherd boy. So he mentally was not ready for what was happening in his life. He was not in a place where he could, he understood, I'm not in that place no more. And for some people, when it comes to, moving on with their life, they can take the physical steps, but mentally they're not there. So for example, Jeremiah, when God told Jeremiah, keyword is told. He did not ask him. He did not, request for him to do something. He told Jeremiah, I made you the prophet over many nations. Jeremiah said, I'm only your boy. God ain't asking for no response. He's telling you something. That's not required for you to say anything back. Like, that's like mom, when mamas be like, speak when you're spoken to. Like, but that really means if I ask you a question, you need to answer. Doesn't mean that every time I say something, you're supposed to say something back. That's what that was. So like, even with Jeremiah, he was amazing at what he did. For him to be so young, he was absolutely amazing at what he did. And even with Moses did the same thing. When God told him to go back to Egypt, Moses said, you know what, I got a slow speech. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't know how to do that. I can't talk. I don't want to do it. God didn't ask him to do anything. He told him to do it. That requires no response. And so even when I started to think about my own life, I'm like, when God told me, he told me that I was called to a specific population of people. And I was like, God, I can't do that. Like, he didn't ask me. He told me. He said, you were called to the people that are not in the church yet. that are too hurt to come back to the church. They don't really know God for themselves. They only know the experience within the four walls. They don't understand the relationship. That is when you come in. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, God, you know what I used to do? Like, and it's amazing to me that we go back to who we used to be as a crutch. And like, it's a crutch. It's just, I'm just gonna call it, it's a crutch. Like, I'm quick to say, I can't do that. I'm not like these people. I'm not like T.D. Jakes. I'm not like Mark Moore. I'm not like, Marissa Farrell. I ain't like none of these people. I am Brianna Nicole Brown. I used to club all the time. If you catch me on the right day, I might cuss you out. Like, that's where we at with that. I'm not all the way there yet. I can't do that. That's it. I didn't ask you that. I did not ask you that. I'm like, but God, I'm like Peter. He was like, exactly. Peter was one of the disciples. Like, Peter cut off ears, and I still performed miracles. I still used him. Like, all right, listen, you got me. You got me that time. But every time somebody, like, I would hear people would, even as a, like, not even, I won't say as a child, like my late teens, early 20s, they would be like, oh, you have a calling in your life? I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. Like, I'm like, I'm cool on that. I can't get in front of people and talk. I can't do this. Do you know where I come from? I'm a dancer. I don't speak. I don't sing. I don't do any of that. What? Like, you want me to do what? And so I would go back. I'd be like, I didn't grow up in church like that. How am I supposed to talk to people about God? And I wasn't even in church like that growing up. And it's like, it immediately took me to Paul. Paul was persecuting Christians, but then he ended up writing half of the New Testament. Like, come on now. Like, how does that work? I didn't understand that. But when what we have to go through in order to get to that place where God is really, really using us, we have to go through what I call strength training, right? And so one of the most quoted verses in the Bible, sorry, I was checking to see if he was asleep. One of the most quoted verses in the Bible is Philippians 4:13, for I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, right? Everybody says that verse all the time, but there are a whole 12 verses before that and a whole other 3 chapters before that. That's not the only verse in Philippians, y'all. I swear it's not. But I'm going to talk about Philippians 4:11 through 14. So the verse after and the 2 verses beforehand, right? And it says, not that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it was with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Even so, you have done well to share with me in my present difficulty. So there's a lot going on in this little excerpt, right? So it shows that Paul has gone without, even still, like, even when he was serving Christ, he has gone without certain things, right? It also shows that he had to learn how to do things. And it shows that he still has current difficulty. So remember earlier when I said, when we found out who Christ is, it made me immediately think about my college years. 2010, almost literally 10 years. 10 years ago this time, I had just started college. And looking back, I have no idea how I survived on noodles, Easy Mac, and applesauce. Like, and sometimes using that meal plan that I have no idea how that happened. I don't know. I don't understand how I was able to survive on that, because it just, even now, like, I'm like, I got money, but back then I had no money. I had $150 a month and I made it work. I don't know how, but it's in those times where you have to get a little creative. You have to figure out, what do I have so that I can get what I want? That's what you have to do in those times. Sometimes you have to go without to learn that. You have to go through something to learn that. So in order for me to understand that God is a comforter, I had to go through losing a child. I had to go through losing my grandparents. I had to go through, heartbreak. I had to go through all of those things to understand that. And this is going to be a really long video. And I'm sorry, y'all. I just realized I'm at like 30 minutes already. But I had to understand that was necessary for me to understand who God is. Whatever I know about Him, I had to learn through that strength training. I had to learn. I had to go through that situation with school to understand that He's a provider, that He's a mind regulator. Because baby, let me tell you something. A couple times I was supposed to have lost it in Valdosta State, at Valdosta State University in Valdosta, Georgia. Okay. Like I was supposed to lost it a couple good times. And so when we start going through trials and when we start learning, we're able to assess them differently. But you have to keep going through them to understand it. So in Romans 5:3-5, it says, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confidence, hope of salvation. And this hope will not lead to disappointment, for we know how dearly God loves us because He has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with His love. Each of those struggles is building your confidence. Remember we talked about that earlier. We talked about how you have to build your confidence. It's like working out. You work out a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit stronger. I feel a little bit better. But then there's still a long way you have to go. You still have room to grow, right? And so I can remember my cousin, who is the owner of Mr. Dexter that's down here. She had a stroke a couple years ago, and that's like my sister. So I remember getting ready to walk out the door for work, and my mom, it was 6:30 in the morning because I was still working at hotels at the time. My mom said she had a stroke, and I was like, what? And keep in mind, I'm one of the people you cannot talk to early in the morning. Like, if you talk to me early in the morning, it throws my entire day off. Like, do not talk to me. Let me get my mind right for the day because I'm tired. I don't sleep well. I don't sleep straight through the night. So, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around what's about to happen for the day. But if you talk to me too early, you might get snapped on. But that day, I remember, being like, when she told me, I was still trying to process because I had just seen her maybe 3 days beforehand. And I was like, she had a what? I was like, yeah, she had a stroke. And I was like, okay. And I remember walking outside, I was trying to just breathe through it. And I remember saying, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Because I have been practicing with my anxiety at that time. I need to get back to that because I have really bad anxiety. And I remember practicing that and saying over and over and over, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. But because so much had happened to me in my life at that time, I had gotten used to being able to go to God and pray and knowing who God was. Because at that time, I had already went through a physical healing of my own. I already went through that. So I said, I know that God can heal. So I'm not worried about this. I'm not going to worry about this. I know that He can heal. But we have to be able to practice that. And so the last thing in that verse is that Paul is currently in difficulty. In his current difficulty. That was what was in verse 14. And I think what people don't understand about faith and about this Christian walk is that just because you find God does not mean that the problems stop. It just means that you know who your way out is. You know who you can go to, who you can talk to. You know that even when it feels like nothing is going to happen, nothing is going to work in your favor, He'll still show up. Because we don't know when the glory be revealed. So we have to keep preparing mentally. We have to mentally, it's like, you know what? I can't pay my bills all the time right now, but God, I know that You're able. God, I know. So to be able to stay with confidence, God is able. That is a lot. That is a lot for, that says a lot. Because it's like on It, and I hate the movie It. I absolutely hate that movie. I'm not a fan of clowns. I cannot stand them. At the end, they were like, you're not a spider, you're a clown. You're not an old lady, you're a clown. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like they were speaking to what it was. Like this is how you're manifesting right now, but this is what you really are. And so because I know that I have to mentally prepare my mind for that, I have to understand that this is just showing up to strengthen me for what's coming. And so nothing compares to the glory that shall be revealed. The suffering of this present time does not compare. So I pray that you all will be strengthened through your preparation, and that you are preparing for what you've prayed for. And I think that's all that I have for y'all. I'm so sorry this video was so long. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also make sure you're following me on Instagram at Young Saved and Free. And I will see you on the next video. Bye!